all and welcome to Wow Crochet. My name is Mary and today I'm coming to you with Tip Tuesday. Yay! This is our second Tip Tuesday of the year. We do Tip Tuesday on the second Tuesday of every month. And today's a good one. Today I've got two types of explanations. One is what you see here that I'm going to explain today. The other one will be we're turning off the camera, we're facing it downwards, and we're having a look, see at some of the little tips that I like to show you. And there's one new one that's in there for next month. Yay! So there's a lot of fun stuff happening on Tip Tuesday. There always is. There's a lot of fun stuff happening here at Wow Crochet because yours truly, I know, a lot of people say, oh, you have so much energy. Where do you get it from? Well, I think it's the pasta. I know, I still love my pasta. Doctors have warned me not too much pasta. Now I've cut it down to 1 day a week, which is still very stressful because I like to have it often. It must be. I must get the energy from pasta. I'm changing the subject, guys. Let's get on with the tips. Yay, yay, yay. I have some great tips for you this week. Okay, tips. Someone asked me, how do you keep your projects organized? Well, there are many ways that I keep my projects organized. One of the recent ones, I'll show you the recent ones actually. We made our little St. Patrick's Day coaster, gorgeous. Oh, by the way, if you want to do this particular coaster, I'll leave a link in the description box down below. When I used the yarn for this coaster, I used the Bendigo Woolen Mills cotton. Now, it comes with its own little label. And I tend to pull my thread from the middle in there somewhere. Okay, it's tied up at the moment, so I'm not going to take that undone. Oh, I hope you can see that. I'm sitting there going, like, this is probably down there. No, so there you go. And then I finished another project, which is coming tomorrow, by the way, guys. Would you like to see it? I know you do. It's the same sort of yarn. In an actual fact, it's the yarn for our, get ready for it, our St. Patrick's Day bow tie. Is it not gorgeous? I know, right? Let me get a little close up for you. Ta-da! I hope you can see it without blurring. And that comes with its own little neck brace, and it comes with a button that you can take undone. Oh, my fella's a lot skinnier than yours, so let's pop the button over. No, he's even less skinnier, so let's pop it in the second space. So I've left 3 spaces for you. So you've got a small, medium and large. If your fella is an extra large, then you need to just add more rows of these. I'll explain that in a tutorial anyway. But that is our second part, and actually our final part of our St. Patrick's Day series. So there you go. Now, you may like to use a thicker cotton or, a stronger cotton. This one is just your basic 8-ply. If you're worried about it being a little bit soft and the bow sits a little bit like that, it's fine. It looks good to me. But if you're worried about that, you can actually double the thread. You just have to check with measurements when you're making them so that your tie is not this big. It's not covering a fella's face. Okay, so that bow tie is coming tomorrow. And I know that because it's already edited. Unless, of course, we have internet issues and we can't upload it, which happens. And let's get back to the tip, right? The tip was, that's the last project we're making for St. Patrick's Day. So yours truly bags the yarn. In actual fact, you can see the coasters that I did make, the other coasters. Those are the practice ones I make. That's another thing. Everything that I make all ends up, if I'm not selling them, they all end up in the same packet together. And the label goes in. First the thread goes in, okay? Your thread goes in. No, it doesn't go in. First I weigh it, then it goes in, then your label goes in, and then your 2 items that I made, my 2 items I made, goes in there as well. Now, usually I pop in there a little slip because I haven't finished it and I'm finishing it off today, and I write on there the pattern, where I made it, not where I made it, where the pattern is that I made it. Because I'm doing my patterns on YouTube, I can just say, well, this is YouTube pattern bow tie, St. Patrick's Day bow tie, right? That's all I write. I pop it in there, and on the front, so you can see better, let me get a nice close-up for you. When I first did the coaster, there was 133 grams left. That was the date that I did it on. I've crossed it off because I made the bow tie, which is now in the bag, and when I weighed my cotton, there was 120 grams left. That was the date that I finished it on. Okay, so there you go. That is how I store projects that I make on YouTube. When it's done and I'm finished, I fold it over. Because I like this green, I will use this, and I know I'll use this in the next few weeks, in a blanket, in a beanie, in something, right? I will use it. I pop that in a stash of another area, a stash of another area. I will show that area in the future, with all the Bendigo Woolen Mills 8-ply cottons. So I've got all the colours together. It goes behind full skeins, so if the full skeins are showing, so you know your work looks nice and even, it looks neat and tidy, and that hides at the back. When I'm ready to make something with 8-ply cotton, I go to that section, I pull out all the back colours, and I try to use them first before I even open up my new ones. And I also try to use, that's why I date them, oops, sorry, that's why I date them. I also try to use the ones that are backdated, you know, from a long time ago, because if you don't do that, your yarn is just sitting there and it's aging and aging and aging and it's pointless. Get rid of it all. If by any chance, let's see, if you don't want to use all those bits, what you do is you either wind the yarn up on a yarn winder or wind it up in a little skein, pop them all in big bags, big packs. When you want to give away yarn or donate it, give them to someone already wound, nice and neat. So all they have to do is open up the pack and use their yarn. So there you go. That's the very first tip I have, and that consists of our St. Patrick's Day coaster and our new bow tie, which is coming tomorrow. So that's one of my biggest tips I use with yarn. And I started doing this only mid-year last year. I've still got lots of yarn all over the place that's loose, that does need reshelving. So there you go. But that's one of my biggest tips I'd like to pass on to everyone. Make sure you pack away your yarn or your thread straight away. Now I did that tutorial late yesterday afternoon for the bow tie, and I bagged it and labelled it and everything yesterday. I didn't worry about putting the tutorial details on it yet because that's not going up till tomorrow. And if it doesn't go up till tomorrow and it goes up, say, next Thursday, then I need to date it for next Thursday. But that's just one tip to keep your yarn clean and away from dust and dirt and everything else. That's that tip. Now, before we had the lovely computers, the lovely Excel and the lovely project sheets, I used one of these old folders. Now, I bought these folders for my children when they were in high school. So this one here is probably 8, 9 years old. Still in good condition because I don't use them very often, especially now that a lot of my details are stored on the computer. But lately, because I work a lot on a particular sofa, couch, you know, one of those armchairs that pull out, I work a lot on one of those couches, and next to me is a tub with some books in there and these folders. So I do tend to occasionally go back to the folders. Now, what did I have in the folder? I'm just going to show you quickly some of my old items that I had in the folder. And one of them is really interesting that I'm sure you will find very interesting, because we did the mood pillow this year with you guys. If you wanted to see the mood pillow, if you wanted to make the mood pillow, I will pop the links to the playlist of the mood pillow in the description box down below, and you can have a look-see. All right, now let me show you. This is what the folder looks like. I'll give you a close-up so you can see. This is what my folder looks like, okay? And there's your little cover. This is what I used to use when I first started. Okay, oh, that lighting is very bad now. Sorry, guys, I'm in the way of the lighting. Okay, then before that, I used, okay, just plain old scribble. Okay, there's the little tag. There's the little thread hanging off the tag saying that's what I used it for. And what was that? What did I make? oh, I can't for the life of me remember what it was. It was a scooty, like a hoodie scarf, okay? And at the back, I have patterns that I always wanted to try, right? There's some spaces there. Those spaces I've gotten rid of because I now use computer. Now this is where, see that? I'm going to show you that. I'm going to open it up and show you. This is where I used to, or how I used to do my mood pillows in the old days. Okay, ta-da! Whoa, let me get it out this way. There you go. How's that? See, whenever I do a square, this is a C2C, a corner to corner, right? I made a corner to corner in black there, and as I got further in, I changed colours. From there, went into black to green, and I coloured in every time I did a row. Coloured it in, shaded it in, shaded it in, till I got to about here. And the reason I stopped shading is because it was the last 3 or 4 rows, and I knew that it was coming to an end. I didn't even need to use this anymore. Now, that's the smaller look. This is the larger look of your corner to corner. Okay, that's how I used to do it in the old days. Now I tend to use a lot of XL. You can use XL. Oh, what's that? The chair is over here. It's not over there. Do I cut that out? Maybe not. So that's that. Oh, it's upside down. The folder's upside down now. So there you the chair put me off. So there you go, guys. That is how I do my folders. That would have been funny, wouldn't it? Falling over on YouTube. Sorry. Now, getting to the very, very back page. I do lose it. Getting to the back page. Now, you're wondering, what's all this blank paper in here? No. These are not blank papers. What they are is they are patterns. And I turn them over whilst I'm working on the other patterns in the folder, so I don't get distracted. Because I get distracted, you know, I look around the room and I think, oh, that yarn is really nice. I forgot that I bought that yarn. That would make a great scooty. That would make a great beanie. That would make a great bootie. And then I go to this pat here and I used to do whatever was there. So I decided, no, I'm going to turn the sheets over and maybe the ideas won't come to my head. They still do. You know how people say they lose their crojo? You know, the mojo crojo, right? I can never do that because my mind is running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I have patterns in my head that go over and over and over again. So I put those patterns, I write them down and I stick them in here, folded that way. When I've got plenty of time up my sleeve and I'm not working on YouTube channel and I'm just taking a bit of a break, I will go through these patterns and think, oh, I remember that one. I'm doing that one next on YouTube. So these, when you get a tip, do yourself a favor, put it in a book. You don't have to face it that way. I face it that way so that I don't get distracted. For those of you who saw my history, my personal history on YouTube, which was last Friday, I'm happy to pop the link to that in the description box down below. You would know that I did do Grafgans in the past. Now, whenever I'm sitting at the couch and I'm tired of crocheting, I pull out these little booklets here. They are graph booklets, right? And I actually start doing graphs of letters. Okay, these are graphs of upside down. These are graphs of letters that I'm using in my next Grafgan, or I've used in the past Grafgan. This looks like a Grafgan that I was supposed to do and I didn't because it hasn't even been touched. However, let me show you one that has been touched so you can see how important it is to do your Grafgans, to do this when using Grafgans. So there you go. That one there has been scribbled on. Well, it's actually kind of shaded in. So what I did was I started, this is a copy of the original, all right? So I started doing the letters this way, right? This is the letter A. You can see from a distance. I don't know if you can see it, the letter A. Yes. Now, when you go this way on doing Grafgans, side to side, you tend to have a little space here and it looks a bit funny. I learned after making this one to go down ways when you're doing letters. You're crocheting down and up and down. When you see a bit of jagged there, it does look nice. But when you're seeing your jagged edges on the side of your letter, it looks kind of weird. Now this letter, I think it's 20, could be wrong, 20 across, maybe 20 cubes across. When you're doing a graphghan and your blanket is in full, I always do my graphghans in length. I no longer do them from side to side for that simple fact that I don't like that little jagged edge there. When you see the jagged edge up the top and the bottom, it's not that noticeable. Okay, so I go down, 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 down. Then I get to a space and I've actually calculated how many rows I'll need to do these letters in. Okay, that's a little bit more technical, but I just wanted to show you the way we did them in the old days to the way that it's done today. Now you just have to go to some app and just put your picture in, and then they blow up your square into different cubes, and they give you the colors. And actually you can actually choose how many different color shades you want. You just have to be careful with shading, because I think once I chose 30 or 40 shades just for fun. It didn't look like the blanket anymore. It didn't look like the colors anymore, that is. So that's the way we did it in the old days. And I say old days, but I still sit there in my little couch and I design letters, different numbers. So that's, say, 20 rows of that letter. Now that's that big because the blanket is really, really big. But if you're making a smaller piece, let's say like a pillow, and you need to fit in a name, say a 4-letter name, 3, we say Bob, B-O-B, right? You need to be able to make those letters a little smaller. So I go back and I start working on smaller sizes. So there's 3 to 4 different sizes that I already have. Some, the letters work on 10, some work on 15, and some work on 20. That's 20 rows for that letter. I know it sounds like a lot, but when you're doing it on a blanket, and if you wanted to see some of my blankets with the letters that are already done, go and check out History Friday, the last few minutes of the video, and you will see the words there alongside the blankets, the letters, the name, whatever you want to call it. Okay, check that out. That is what I used in the old days. And in fact, the blankets that you see on the History Friday, they were made using this. I did not have a program, I did this. That's that. Another big tip, okay? When doing graphghans, always have your little pack available. Now in this little pack I have, I'll show you quickly, coloured pencils, okay? I don't know why I have liquid paper, but I do. Maybe because I've got a pen in there, which I don't usually use. I've got the sharpener, and the eraser I'm using at the moment over there with my work. And inside I have a pack of grey leads in case I lose one, okay? And I don't know why I've got glue, but I do. And this is the bobbin, one of the bobbins that you use during a graphghan. And you know, one day when we do a small graph together, which we will, one day, not now, we're still learning, guys. We will use the bobbins, and I'll show you how to use these bobbins. And you can use good old-fashioned pegs to peg them to your blanket, so you don't have to have them lying everywhere. So you could use these, or you use the pegs. You use the pegs to peg these to your blanket while you're working with the other colors. There are so many tips to doing so many things. That's the graphghans. That's a whole new, you know what, to do a graphghan tip, I would need 2 tips, like 2 tips, 2 months worth of tips. How's that? There's a lot of tips for graphghans. So there you go. That's that. And that's that. That is what I use for my graphghans. I use a pencil pack box. I used to have a pencil case, but they would fall on the floor, make a mess. Now I pop them all in a tub and they're in there safe and sound. Now you may already know this, guys, yours truly. When I'm working in my little crochet area, I always carry this bowl with me, or leave it, actually it's on a table right next to my crochet area. Inside the bowl is 1.5 million crochet hooks of different sizes, and one just fell through because it's nice and thin, of different sizes, including my main man. Now my main man, he's the guy that started my crochet life. Again, that's in my history if you want to check that out. So there are so many different hooks here, different sizes. Inside here I sometimes keep, which I have one, only one, I must be using them over there, stitch markers. All right, so inside there I keep stitch markers and hooks. Usually I keep the scissors, but I'm doing a tutorial after for you guys for tomorrow. And so the scissors are sitting over there at the moment on the tutorial desk. That's what I use there. Inside the tub, I also have this. Now this purse here, I got that from Unwind Craft Cafe here in Keilor East. Again, I know I mention them in almost every one of my videos because I practically live there. It's like my second home. I think I mentioned in one of my videos that when I walk in, I shout out, "Honey, I'm home," because I'm practically there all the time. So this kit, there's a bit of an extra there. This kit I use whenever I do tutorials for you guys. I pick up the kit, I take it to my table, and inside it is the 3 or 4 main hooks that I use, scissors, and a pack of needles. So there's my scissors that you see online all the time. That's the pack of needles that I have when I'm doing my tutorials, and in there I've got 5 or 6 different sizes, so I can work with wool, cotton, thread, whatever. I try to keep them in there. There was once I misplaced it and I was very sad about myself then. So your scissors, and of course your crochet hooks. But my main crochet hooks that I use online, which are, they're not really in row there, but it doesn't matter, they're not in the right size, but are 4, 4.55 and 5.5. These are my clover hooks. I prefer to use the soft touch clover hooks for most of my work. Don't get me wrong, I do tend to play with other hooks too. And in fact, when we do our granny square shrug, which I'll show you the yarn in a minute, we will be using this guy right here, 6.5, this guy. Now, the only reason we're using him is because I can't find a clover hook with a 6.5. I've been looking, but a lot of the areas that I go to usually, they're not stocking them, and I don't know whether they actually make a 6.5, I don't know, but I don't have one. So I'll be using this guy unless I find one before next month. It's not even next month, it's only a couple of weeks away, isn't it? We're starting it in April. Anyway, so there you go. Those are the hooks I use. I'm going to put that back in my bag because this is a bag that I only use for tutorials. Okay, there was another 4mm hook that was in here. And I remember giving it to my sister when she came around and she wanted to do a bit of crochet. I said, take my good hook because I don't need it, but I did. And I've been using this old 4mm hook that is kind of, yeah, it's got a nail mark in there from my constant crocheting. That goes to show how much crochet I do. But there you go. And that's that. And I always keep that in here with this. And when I'm ready to do a tutorial, I take it out of the tub, put the tub back where it belongs. So I never lose my tub, right? That's actually a yarn bowl. It's supposed to be used for yarn. I'll never use this one for yarn. I've got 2. I never really use them for yarn. I use them for storage, which is interesting. And my final big tip, guys, is the emergency tub. You're thinking, she has an emergency tub? Yes, I do. In the emergency tub here, this particular tub gets filled up once a week and emptied once a week. You're thinking, what? Is she mad? Yes, I'm crazy. But I'm crazy crochet lady, okay? That's why. So what's in the tub? Now, the reason it gets filled up and emptied once a week is because once a week I'm working on certain projects. No, all week I'm working on that project, the projects. And some of them I get worried, what if I lose the thread? What if I lose the crochet hook? What if I lose the scissors? I can't find my sewing needle, da 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 da. I come to this tub and I pop some of the important items that I'm using that week. Now I have a crochet poncho that I'm making someone, and it's a very personal project. So I need to not make any mistakes. I need to not lose anything, and I need to not waste time. This project needs to be done straight away. So I am doing the shawl in the Katona. That one there, and it's actually along with the other cream. Now I'm using the cream at the moment, so I'm not worried about it. It's actually in with the actual poncho. But this one here, because I'm only using very minimal of this particular thread, she only wanted 2 rows in one section and 2 rows in the bottom. I don't want to lose it. So I've popped one in here for safekeeping. Now this one here, I popped in here because that's the one we were using to make our Easter bag. If you're joining us new and you would like to make the Easter bag, I will leave a link to the Easter bag in the description box down below. It's all complete, by the way. And with this particular thread, I saved one because I was going to make something else. However, I decided not to, and I needed to post it out for a giveaway instead. Now that's the reason why it's in here, because it was reminding me that I have to do the giveaway this week because I forgot to send it last week. Am I naughty or what? She's probably thinking, where's my giveaway? That's my prize. So it's to remind me to post that out this week. Okay, I do have it on my calendar, I have it on a diary, I've got my phone, I've got it everywhere, so I'm not going to forget. But just in case, I open the tub and I think, oh my gosh, I forgot the giveaway. Okay, also in the tub, I have scissors, which you've probably seen in some of my tutorials. If I can't find it in my bowl because I picked it up and put it somewhere, I was naughty and I shouldn't have, or in my little, I meant my bowl in there. Then I come to the emergency tub, I grab my scissors from here, so I'm not running around looking for things. So these are all things I've learned along the way because yours truly was frustrated last year when things went wrong. So it taught me to do an emergency one. And occasionally you've seen me use the yellow measuring tape on mine. That's my emergency tape because I've misplaced the white one. So there you go. And I have a pack of buttons here, emergency, just in case. And I actually bought them recently. I usually use another pack, but I've swapped them just for fun. And a pack of pins for blocking, when I'm ready to do blocking, because I don't block a lot. So when I'm ready to do the blocking, if my pins are missing, I come to the emergency tub. Yay. and you know, this may sound silly, but I have a very old-fashioned, and I mean old-fashioned, it's actually a Revlon one, an old-fashioned nail file. Now people are thinking, she gives a nail file in with her stuff? Yes. There's nothing worse than you have got a chipped nail and you're working with this gorgeous soft laced item and your soft lace item snags on your nail. You have made the whole, let's just say it's a blouse, and you've snagged it right in front, right in the middle where everyone is looking at. You have to give that to your customer or your client or your commissioned work. And how do you give it to them with this big snag in the middle? How do you fix a snag? That's actually for another tip, by the way. You can fix them. I'm very clever like that. No, it's just I've made that mistake so many times before. This is not about clever. It's about experience. And so I keep a nail file handy. If I find one of my nails are chipped, I will file that straight away. It's an emergency because I do not want to snag my work. Okay, so that's that. I've got another stash of needles. I think there's only one in that one. There's another one in there. Okay, in there was a spare button, which I used last Monday. So there you go. They come in handy, the emergency tub. Okay. And of course, one colour pencil and just a black lead. So the emergency tub gets filled up. I've lost the lid. Oh, here it is. The emergency tub gets filled up once a week and emptied once a week. Now that cotton there that I used for the Easter bag, yeah, that one there is getting shipped out tomorrow morning. So that has reminded me to ship it out. Can't do it today. I won't be able to leave the place today because I'm doing tutorials. So there you go. That is the very last tip in that section. Now, I'm going to pause the camera and we're going to show you another tip. The tip we're going to show you is because there are many of them, but they're all in one. So you're not going to miss out on anything. You're going to see the whole lot, okay? And that's a tiny little granny square like this. And I made this granny square using Caron cakes. Leftover Caron cakes, some of my red leftover Caron cakes. And there are about 3 different tips on the granny square and tips on how to keep your little square centered, tips on how to do the magic loop without it coming undone, and tips on how to have a 2-way look of your blanket or your square or your piece, whatever it is you're working on. What we're going to do, I'm going to pause the camera right now. You're going to check out some of the other tips we have for crochet related tips. And I'm not going to show you that again because you're going to have a look at that in this tutorial. Check it out, guys. All right, we're going to start with some little bit of leftover Caron cakes that I have. I'm going to be using the 5mm hook. All right, you pop the tail end in front of us. Okay, so you're working with your working end. Now you can use 3 fingers or 2. I'm going to use 2 fingers. I'm going to make that loop a little bit smaller. Okay, if you use the 3 fingers like I usually do, it can get a little bit fiddly. I'm just so used to using it, but I'm going to drop it down to 2 to make your loop smaller, okay? So you're going to wrap your thread around your 2 fingers and cross over your looped end there, all right? So you should actually have formed a cross, okay? See a little crisscross? Oh, let me get a nice close-up for you. Little crisscross right there. Pop your hook under your first thread and pull that cross thread under. But the thing is, you have to hold everything when you do this. If you let go, that's when everything becomes loose and fiddly, all right? So always hold onto your threads. Then you chain, which is a yarn over hook, through the first loop. Yarn over hook through your second, and yarn over hook through your third. If you're wanting to do double crochets, you do a yarn over hook. A lot of people do this magic ring with a single crochets and then work off that. Well, I have done double crochets. People say, oh, you know, but it comes undone. It doesn't. It does if you don't weave in those tail ends, which I'll show you in a minute, okay? So you're still holding on to everything. Don't let go. Yarn over hook, pop your hook in the loop, yarn over hook, pull up that loop. Don't let go, even if you're holding with one finger up there and you bring it all the way up the top. Yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over hook, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Now if you wanted to let go a bit, you can, and you can actually close that circle up a little bit, and it makes it easier for you to work with. Okay, now remember, you're going to put in maybe 12, 9, 12, whatever you put in there, I don't know. I'm going to be putting 12 today. So we're going to do another double crochet, yarn over hook, in the loop, pull up a loop, and pull through 2, and pull through 2. All right, don't let go like I just did. So that's that. Now you're going to chain 1 and 2, and you don't need to hold on to it anymore because it's all sorted itself out. But it does help you to hold on to it when you're working with it. Okay, 1 and 2. We're going to do another one after this, and 3, and then we're going to do another chain 2, which is 1 and 2. Then you might find this a little bit big. Don't pull it too tight, just a little bit more, so you've got more control over your work, okay? Now we're going to put another 2 cluster sets, and clusters are these 3 double crochets. This is your basic granny square, by the way, guys. If you wanted to keep going, you could. However, I'm going to be doing a little trick at the end of this granny square as well, at the end of this row, okay? Another tip, if that helps. Someone else asked me the other day, do I do this tip when I'm doing granny squares? No, I don't, but I can. So chaining 1 and 2. In fact, we're going to do it in one of the projects next month, okay? We're going to pop in another 3 double crochets. And then I'll show you in the end what we need to do with our square, okay? And 3. All right. So now we're chaining 1 and 2. Now, there's your tail end. If you leave that in front, this isn't going to work. Okay, you need to put it at the back. In fact, you can give it a tug now, and what it does is it closes up your circle, and you now officially have that magic ring look where you can't see through. It's not finished there, guys. Everybody thinks that's it. I've done the circle. I'm going to cut the end there, toss it in the wash, and then, oh, oops, it's come undone. Of course it has. You need to reinforce your circle. Before we do this next step, I wanted to show you the second tip. Now, as I did normally, I chained up my 2 and we slip stitch into that top stitch right there. I'll get a nice little close up. The red is hard to see, sorry. Should have used a 5.5 hook. So there's a stitch right there that we slip stitch in, okay? However, we're not going to do it that way today. We're going to take our loop off, take 1 chain off. All right, actually take them both off and I'll show you the whole tip in full, okay? Now this tip, another lady mentioned whether I do it. I don't, but I am going to be doing it next month, like I said earlier. You chain 1 only. Now in that stitch where we do a slip stitch, we're not doing a slip stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. So you pop in your nice and tight stitch there, like mine, single crochet in that very top stitch, right there. Then we chain 1, 2 and 3, and this is another way of doing your granny squares. Not that it's a right or wrong way, it's just another way. Chain up 3, we're turning our work around and we're putting 2 double crochets in that same space, 1 and 2. Now ordinarily I would have chained 2, popped another 3 double crochets in there. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go on to our very next corner. So jump into your next corner with your 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. That's a third one. I'm going to pick up speed, guys, because I want to get around to that corner and show you the second tip. 1, 2. Now, if you want, you can pause your video here and catch up later. Yours truly just wants to pick up speed a little bit so we can get to that other side. Now next cluster set, you're doing 3, 2, 3 again in that corner that you come to. Next set as well. All right, nearly there into that next corner. 2, 3. All right, now we still have that very first corner left. Now this is actually the back of our work because we pulled that tail end, remember, and we left it at the back. So that will always be classified as the back of that work. However, because we are working this way with this yarn where we're turning, doing our chain 1 and slip stitch and turning, doing our chain 1, single crochet and turning, it doesn't matter which is your right or wrong side. We're going to jump back into that first corner we did with our 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, then we are chaining 1 and we're doing the single crochet in the top of that chain right there. Nice tight chain that I have. And there's your single crochet. Pull up a loop. Oh no, don't pull up a loop, sorry. There's your single crochet. Now let's say if you wanted to continue, you just do exactly the same thing we did before where you chain up 3, turn, do your 3 double crochets. So you just repeat this last row over and over and over again to make your granny square blanket, okay, or whatever you want to make. In this case, I've decided my blanket is big enough. I'm just going to pull that loop through, give it a cut, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that middle end. Now, the tip, the reason why we do this part here where we chain and then chain 1 and single crochet instead of chaining 2 is that actually it does tend to center your square. Now, if you've noticed with our recent granny square blanket, our center square is not completely centered. Okay, that's a tip that one of the ladies taught me a long time ago. I've never used it. I thought I'd try it this week, and we are going to actually try it in our granny square shrug next week using next month, using this yarn. Oh, this yarn here. All right. Okay, so there we go. All right, so that's that. Now, let's say for argument's sake, your project is finished. You don't have to do this until the very end, right? But regardless of whether you do it now or at the end, you need to weave in that middle end, right? That middle piece. But these do come undone in the wash, and people have told me, mine came undone in the wash. Okay, so what you do, you've got your needle threaded, you just weave it in and out of there. And actually get right into the thickness. See how tight that was? Get right into those thicknesses. Don't just put it on some of the threads that I like to split. You literally have to go in between the thicknesses. All right, you do it once, one way, like so. I think it's got to the end already. Just check you're not making an error there. There you go. And then you go back the other way in a different section, of course. All right, because this can come undone. Not anymore. Okay, it's a big tip I use all the time. This, when it comes to weaving in ends, this is what I like to do. I do like to make sure they are very tightly weaved in. The middle bit can come across a little bit solid, but after a few washes, that disappears. All right, or even after the first wash, that solid feeling disappears. All right, so that, no matter how much I tug, will not come undone. All right, so there you go. That's that. Now, the other thing I tell a lot of people in my tutorials to try, and I think it is a good idea, when you're weaving in that very last end, let's say you won't even put a border on this. You do not want this to be visible. That is visible, okay? There are many ways that I've done it in the past. Now I remember this was our right side because that's where we weaved in that last end. So I would like for this to come across to the back. It doesn't matter with this particular piece, okay? So what we're going to do, see this little chain stitch you've got right here, that one right up the top, that the last one we did. You are going to find a way to get it in that chain stitch, okay? So not the complete stitch, just through the actual thread itself. So I've actually split that yarn. A lot of people say it's an absolute no-no to split yarn in crochet, but you know what? It hides those ends, okay? It's gone. Now, it's not finished yet. It's not just that. I literally split every stitch. Maybe the red wasn't a good choice here. Every stitch I see throughout this part of the process, right? There. I split it through another thread. Downwards. I'm going downwards here. I split it through another thread. So I don't actually explain exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I just say split the threads. But in this case, for the last end, I go down all the way until I get to the bottom here. Okay? Then I literally go and weave it in between that bottom set of double crochets. Now be careful, if you pull it too tight, that's going to happen, okay? Whoops, I think I probably shouldn't have done it too tight. But if you leave it too loose, your little thread up here is going to stick out as well. So you really need to get in there. And now you're going to weave back the other way, and you're going through the thicknesses. You're not just splitting threads here. You are going through the thickness of that double crochet set, and that'll do. Okay, so there you go. That is that third tip that we've got here. Your first was your magic loop. Your second was the chain one and single crochet, and your third was weaving in that very final end. These are really important tips when it comes to finalizing your work. At the end of the day, you could spend hours and hours making this huge, massive, gorgeous granny square blanket, and then all of a sudden you mess up here, or you've made a mistake down here and the whole thing comes undone in the wash. So really very, very important tips, okay? So there you go. There is your square. Gorgeous, gorgeous square. And as you can see, by single crocheting, by chaining one and single crocheting on the corner, this square right here has stayed centered. Sometimes it looks a little bit like that when you're doing a normal granny square. It is normal for it to turn because we are turning and pulling ourselves forward when we're working. But this way, we're going backwards and pulling it the other way, which is making your work center. All right? That's a small tip that I've used recently. And that's a tip we're going to use next month for our granny square shrug. Be looking forward to that. In April, it is definitely coming. All right? So there you go, guys. Those are the tips we've had today for Tip Tuesday. You've had some storage tips. You've had some graph band tips. You've got some crochet tips. So you've got a few that we've done today. Okay? So don't forget, guys, this week, don't forget to do your... I'm going to show you again. Why not? Because it's so cute. It is so cute. Don't forget, we're going to be doing our bow tie. It's gorgeous. Yep. We're going to be making our bow tie tomorrow. And the next day, or the very next day after, we'll be doing our crochet tissue box cover. I know, right? Gorgeous. So those are the items we're making this week. That was Tip Tuesday. My name is Mary. This is Well Crochet. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Also, when you do subscribe, hit the all to receive all videos in your inbox, and you will not miss any one of our videos here at Well Crochet. So thank you so much for watching. And as I always say at the end of my videos, ciao for now.